there is a group of individuals I do want to recognize tonight, and that is the newly sworn city council that will be serving the city of Bardstown in 2021 and 2022. And I'm going to have a little more to say about this group. Of course, it's all of you all that are currently serving for the balance of this year, and you'll be serving again starting January 1st. So I want to welcome you all this evening. We just swore the new council in at 5 o'clock today, and happy to have everybody here with us. The other thing I'd like to say, as we recognize groups individual, we want to express our sympathy to Councilman Williams, who lost, I think, a family member here recently, and he will, I think, speak to that a little later as we get into some discussion from the council members. So Coach Rowe, we sorry for your loss. I know you missed our last meeting as a result of that, but glad you're with us this evening. Okay, the first item on our agenda is under ordinances, and we have Mary Spalding joining us from the Joint City County Human Rights Commission, and they are proposing an update. Really, it's not a lot of changes, but more of an update to our current Joint City County Human Rights Ordinance. And so I'd like to call on Mary to give us some background and make a presentation of why the changes are being requested. It really is, the change consists of adding, what I see is adding about 7 words and defining a population in the ordinance. Of course, a number of sections would have to be updated with this changes. So Mary, if you would, floor is yours. Is she not with us this evening?
I don't see her anyplace.
Yeah, Mayor, I don't see her on our list of attendees right now. I'll see if I can catch her on the phone and have her join in a minute. She did confirm, but she might be having trouble.
All right. If you check with her, then we'll go ahead and continue with the agenda, and we'll come back to her if we can get her on then. Thank you. Then the next, we have a service request under bids and contracts for Woodlawn Springs. I'd ask Jessica Filiatro, our city engineer, to talk us through that.
Yes, this is just a letter of request for service for lots 333 and 334 in Woodlawn Springs. And basically this is a couple of lots that were currently undeveloped and part of the Woodlawn Springs golf course. So they're in order to, and it's directly off of Deep Springs Drive. So just driving by, they're just creating 2 additional lots kind of between some existing houses. This, in order to sell those lots, there needed to be a small sewer main extension in order to provide those lots with sanitary sewer. So this request is just for installation of 170 feet roughly of sanitary sewer. And I've reviewed the plans and everything looks like that it is appropriate, and will go through the Division of Water and follow the same process for service.
Does anyone have any excuse me, questions of Jessica on this request? If not, then I would then ask for a motion to approve the request for services at lots 333 and 334 of the Woodlawn Springs subdivision into our service.
So move, Mayor.
Motion by Councilman Jones. Is there a second?
Second, Mayor.
Second by Councilman Williams. Any other discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. Motion's carried. Jessica, I would like to just say, I think you told us in recent weeks that the downtown water and sewer project Your goal was to have it finished by Christmas. And I must say today at 2:30, I was riding down North 4th Street across from Salt River, and they were spreading straw over recently seeded area where they did quite a bit of the staging for that project. And I think when I saw them loading up the last porta-john, that gave me a reason to believe it was a substantially complete project. So I think we're going to meet the Christmas deadline, it sounds like. Do you have anything to add to? I think it looks like they're just finishing up, dressing up that project.
That's correct, Mayor. All of the tie-ins have been made. They were able to get all of the fire hydrants installed the end of last week, and they had to pour just a little bit of curb after they raised some of those fire hydrants and installed some of those. So you kind of saw the beginning of this week, some of those final little pours there at the corner. I believe it was Beale and 3rd Street. They've been adding that final dress up and straw work and trying to just clean up. So there might be just a few cleanup items and things to do, but the project as a whole is in service and functioning. And for the most part, they've got a lot of it cleaned up and are just trying to move on. So yes, it looks like maybe Christmas wishes are coming true for some people in the downtown area.
Right. Well, they got another good day of weather tomorrow, so hopefully they'll make a lot of progress.
Hopefully so.
All right, thank you, Jessica. Let's go ahead and move on then to our HRB COA recommendations, and I'd ask our city attorney, Audrey Hayden, to read these. And I know we had some recusals, but we'll get to them after she reads the summary of recommendations.
Okay. Thank you, Mayor. COA 2159, Chris Dickerson, applicant owner, request to demolish a shed at 509 North 3rd Street. Recommendation: approval to demolish the shed as proposed in the application. COA 2160, Chris Dickerson, applicant owner, request to demolish part of the building at 509 North 3rd Street. Recommendation: approval to demolish the 2 portions of the house as proposed in the application with the following condition. The demolition cannot occur until plans for the new construction are approved by the HRB board. COA 2124, amended, Fred Hagan, applicant owner, request to install a step at 215 East Flagey Avenue. Recommendation: approval to install the proposed step with the following condition. The final design of the step will be staff approved. COA 2145, Ellen Bowling Kelly family, applicant owner, request to install signs at 107 West Stephen Foster. Recommendation: approval to install the signs as proposed in the application. COA 2162, Beth Clark and Kate Bowling and Catherine Clements, applicants / owners, request to replace signage at 122 North 3rd Street. Recommendation: approval to install the signs as proposed in the application. And I know Councilwoman Hart, Mayor, has a recusal on 2145.
And also 2159 and 160, as does Councilman Buckman. Is that correct, Betty?
Yes, sir. That is
Yes.
for me. Yes.
All right, so since Betty and Councilman Buckman are going to recuse on COA 20-159 and 160, let's do those first. I need a motion to approve the recommendations on COA 20-159 and 160 with conditions.
I'll make that motion, Mayor.
A motion by Councilman Hibbs. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Thank you, Councilman Shekels. Okay, we have a motion and a second to approve the recommendations of COA 20-159 and 160 with conditions on 160. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion is carried, and let the record show that Councilwoman Hart and Councilman Buckman have recused. Then we'll go down to COA 20-145. And Councilwoman Hart has to recuse from that one. I need a motion to approve the recommendation.
So moved, Mayor.
Motion by Councilman Buckman. Is there a second?
I'll second that, Mayor.
Is that Councilman Shekels?
I was one of them, but
Yeah, go ahead, Bill.
We'll go with you, Bill, since you showed up first on the screen. And second by Councilman Shekels. Any other discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, like sign. Motion's carried. I think that leaves us then with COA-20-124 with conditions and COA-20-161. I need a motion to approve those two as recommended by the.
So moved, Mayor.
That motion is by Councilman Bowes, and the second is that Councilman Williams?
It is, sir.
All right, thank you. We have a motion by Councilman Jones and a second by Councilman Williams on COA 20-161 and COA 20-124 with conditions. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, like sign? Motion's carried. All right, thank you. I'll just stop for a second to ask Gary Little, our city clerk, if we have any luck with Mary Spalding.
No, sir, Mayor. Still
Okay.
trying to contact her, but if she.
Well, you know, this,
She's here, Gary. She popped
Okay.
up now. Okay.
okay. Well, Mary, we'll go back up to the first item on our agenda, and we're glad to have you, and we'll give you a minute here to kind of bring us up to speed on the request by the Joint City County Human Rights Commission for I call it more of an update to our current ordinance. And looks like there's the addition of 7 words describing some individuals who you all feel should be included in the ordinance. And if you don't mind, if you would give us some background on this and perhaps your proposal on why these changes, you all feel that your board feels that these changes need to be made to our joint city county ordinance.
Okay. I apologize for being late. I had some technical difficulties that I won't go into at the risk of embarrassing somebody. But having said that, it was an icebreaker for me because it scared me so much. I wasn't scared about this anymore. But anyway, you have the proposal in front of you. And as you know, or probably know, the Bardstown Human Rights Commission was established in 1966 at the same time the Kentucky Civil Rights Commission was established. And that was the first Human Rights Commission established in the South. And so, Bardstown has had a really good reputation in this area, I do believe. I've been on the commission for 6 years or 7 years, something like that. But this ordinance has not been updated for 34, I think. And I believe that all of you all got a copy of what it was. And I know it went through Audrey Hayden because it had to be submitted to a lawyer, to your law advisor. And so basically it adds 4 groups. The first one is familial status related to housing. And what that amounts to is a single person perhaps, or a person with a child under 18 having more protected rights in the area of housing. The next one is disability, which is simply bringing us into compliance with the American with Disabilities Act. The third is sexual orientation, and the fourth is gender identity. And there are 20 human rights commissions or 20 local ordinances that have included this in basically the same language that we have in the last several years. And I'm hoping that Bardstown's going to be the 21st. Well, maybe we can do that for 2021. I think we need it because I do believe that there is a layer of protection added by having a local ordinance that shows local support for people who are sexually oriented towards either being gay or straight, people who have a gender identity that may vary from what they see as their assigned birth gender. And I could give you research, I can give you information. It looks like y'all are running through things pretty fast. This is the first time I've ever been to a city council meeting. So it's kind of interesting to see. And I think you want to maybe be able to process some of this. But when I asked myself, why I really thought that it should be, these should be added, I thought about how that when you're, we're people who are more alike than we're different, all of us. I was a little nervous about coming here and talking to y'all tonight. And then I thought, well, I know everybody. And either I've taught them or I've taught their kids or I've taught their grandkids so I know that we share a lot of values and, we all stand for pretty much the same kinds of things. We believe in fairness. We believe in kindness. We believe in equal opportunity. We believe in the rights of everybody to thrive in a community without being discriminated against or being humiliated by other people in the community. And I think it's time for us to codify that. I think it's time for us to put that on the table and for you to stand up and take a stand on it and to support the addition of those 4 classes.
Mary, and you were right, we were kind of going through the first part of the agenda pretty quick, but those are things we deal with almost every month. So, but the reason I invited you to make this presentation is I felt like this was something that was important for the council to consider, and we weren't gonna, I don't think we're gonna propose an ordinance change this evening, but I wanted you to make the presentation and give the council a chance to ask any questions. And then perhaps we might take it up in the month of January, possibly. I do know just a little bit, maybe you can confirm this, in some of my research, Mary, the familial status part of this, I think I found where back in 1988, the Fair Housing Act added that language into their law. And so just that alone would help codify this ordinance to be equal to some of the fair housing law that is already in place, it looks like to me.
Yes. That is.
Go ahead.
I said, that's true. We felt that adding that in the disability categories were just bringing us in compliance with state and federal thinking, really.
Right.
And there are a lot of protective agencies, ranging from the EEOC to fair housing, this is a very scattered kind of thing because we really what we're dealing with is housing and employment and public accommodations, and in some cases, financial transactions. Sometimes that's covered, but most of the time, those first 3 areas are really all that's covered. And, really all that we're trying to add is a layer of public support for that, a local, and it's kind of a statement. Plus, I also think about how it's good for business. I did a good bit of research about that, and every Fortune 500 corporation in the state of Kentucky has strong non-discriminatory language in their. They don't allow any type of discrimination, and it includes all 4 of those categories. I also, it came to mind, and some of you sports guys are going to know more about this than I do, but, I think sometimes that not taking a public stance on things like sexual orientation and gender identity leads to the perception that you are community that is not desirable. And North Carolina had some experience with the NCAA that somebody was relating to me a few years ago. I don't know if the NCAA tournament was supposed to be held there, but there was some event that got pulled out because of North Carolina's lack of this type of legislation and this type of support. So in that sense, I guess it's good for business. You know, I try to think of ways to put it that didn't sound, things that sounded objective. And I think really it came down to it being a quality of life issue. I think that if you pass these, if you include these types of groups and these classes in our local ordinance, it bespeaks a commitment on the part of local people it gives everybody dignity. I know that we tend to have in our world a fear of what's different. We have a fear of change. We have a fear of somebody or something that doesn't seem like what we've always been familiar with. And over the 73 years of my life, I've discovered that there are a lot of people that I would have never known. I would have made maybe some judgments about because I didn't know them. And then as I got to know them, whether they were someone of a different race or somebody from a different country or even somebody disabled. Before I mean, I'm sure now I'm sort of present as a person who's physically disabled, but before that was the case, I can remember meeting people who were physically disabled, say in a wheelchair, and that was the first thing I noticed and remembered about them, and it created a feeling of judgment or like a prejudgment that they were less capable, or it was a one-dimensional way of looking at people. So I think that a lot of times protective classes are designed to cause us to become more familiar with those people and more accepting of all the possibilities, all the opportunities that they have. It doesn't take anybody else's rights away. It's one of those wonderful things. It doesn't cost any money. You're not going to, when you vote on this, you don't have to spend any money on it. It's not taking anything away from anybody else in your community. Everybody else is still fine. They're still protected. They're still okay. And it just extends a basic dignity and recognition towards people that makes them feel better. And when people feel better, it's a nicer community. And a nicer community is what you want what are we, the most beautiful small town in America? That's what you want us to be.
Yes, Mary, earlier you mentioned a number of cities have adopted this language in their human rights ordinances. And I know our city attorney, Audrey, did some research, and I think she showed us at least 15 cities have adopted this language in their ordinances. Obviously, some of the bigger cities you would expect, like Louisville, Lexington, and Paducah, and Covington, but then cities more our size, have also done it. Frankfort, Moorhead, Danville, Midway, Maysville, Henderson, Dayton, Georgetown, Versailles, and Bellevue. So there are a number of cities more the size of Bardstown that have adopted this language. I've talked to the mayor in Danville. They did it a couple of years ago, and he said it was a well-received change over there. But I think, Mary, one question I had, of course, we could vote to on this possibly in the month of January, and I guess in order for this to be fully ordained, it would have to also be taken up at fiscal court. Is that correct?
Yes, it is.
Okay.
Our commission is funded and overseen, I guess, by both, I guess that's the word I want, by both agencies. So yes, it would be. Those are the two governing agencies.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Any council members, do y'all have any questions of Mary? As I say, I'm not going to ask for a motion for a first reading tonight, but we might consider that for a meeting in January, perhaps.
Mayor, can I
Mayor.
just add?
Sorry, go
Audrey.
ahead. Go ahead, Audrey.
I was just going to add, Mayor, for the council members, just as a note that the ordinance does provide some exceptions for religious organizations. Should that be a concern for any of the council members? I mean, I'm happy to talk in more detail about that, but as far as with employment, if there are concerns for a religious organization in hiring about any of the protected groups that would be added. And then the same thing with housing. There are exceptions that are created that exist already in the ordinance that are there. So.
Can I make a comment about that, Audrey?
Sure.
There's also the Kentucky has it's called the Religious Freedom Restoration Act, and that's pretty broad and deep.
I agree. I just wanted to, for any council members who might be concerned about, those sort of issues, right? It does, not only is it provided for in the local ordinance, but you're right, at the state level, that is something that's provided for as well.
Thank you.
Councilman Jones, you have a question?
Yes, Mayor. Really, it's just for Mary and possibly Audrey. Mary, first of all, I want to thank you for coming before the council tonight, and I want to thank you for your dedication and what you've done in the Human Rights Commission over the years. And it's definitely made a difference in Nelson County and Bardstown. I want to thank you for that.
Thank you.
In my research as the mayor, going through and obviously the wording and everything, I don't really have a problem with anything that's in the proposed ordinance, other than what I would like to see, if it's possible, and this is something maybe for Audrey also, but usually when we have an ordinance change or a proposal to change an ordinance, the existing language, and I know that there was also some language in the original ordinance as far as age discrimination that's being removed. What I would like to see in the proposed ordinance is how we normally do it on the other ordinances. I'd like to see the original language struck out and then the new language next to it. It's a lot easier for me, and I don't know about the other council members, but it's a lot easier for me to make those comparisons to see actually what is being changed, if that would be possible in the draft.
And Councilman Jones, I think that's more for me. I think this is the format that Ms. Spalding sent it to us in based on some of their proposed language. And if I'm not mistaken, and Gary can probably answer this, this is actually formatted the way that the joint city-county ordinance would be formatted. And our ordinances, as you know, look a little bit different than that when we adopt them. So before I asked Gary to undertake reformatting it, and it's not a big change, but doing that, we wanted to present it to you all. So if we bring it back in January, it will be formatted the way that you're used to seeing.
Okay, thank you.
And David, we did look at we looked at changing quite a few things about the language just to make it not so what we thought was archaic and cumbersome. And Audrey, we very quickly got to the place that we understood it was written in legalese, and there are almost no changes. What you're referring to, except for the addition of those classes and the rewording there, we just didn't know what to do with all those words. And I mean, we worked on it. We really did. It was a serious undertaking. But what you are talking about with the age discrimination is age discrimination at that originally was from 40 to 70. And since I was getting old, we thought we ought to knock the top end off of that like everybody else did. I mean, 70 is the new 50, right?
That's right.
Yeah, and I'm sorry, Mary, I wasn't making any
okay.
statement as far as for or against that language change. I would just like to see, and Audrey answered that question for me. I would just like to see the original language next to the proposed language on the proposal.
Okay, no problem.
Yeah. Thank you, Mary.
You're welcome.
Mayor?
Anybody else have any questions of Mary?
Mayor, can I just make a comment, please?
Yes, ma'am.
I just want to say, as a realtor, anytime we enter into a contract, whether it's representing the buyer or the seller, we have a form that the buyer or seller signs, and all of this is in that sign saying about the fair housing and including these 4 groups of individuals. So it definitely falls in line with that.
Thank you.
Yeah, it really appears it's more of an update just to kind of get more relevant to what the changes in laws have been here in the country since, as Mary said, I think this was adopted originally back in 1966. So a lot's changed. We haven't made any changes. I think she said in 34 years. So it's probably time to take a look at it and bring it up to code with other laws that are already on the books.
Mayor, if I might add, there's a wide range of cities in this group that you round off. This came up at the KLC several years ago. It was a Kim and Holly discussion about this issue, and and you've got a town the size called Vico. It's got about 650 people in it. I think they may have been the first the city that took this ordinance up. And of course, then you got the city the size of Louisville. So you got everything in between. So it's interesting to see that. So.
Yeah.
Just a comment.
Thank you, Bill.
Just
Well,
a comment.
unless anyone on the council has a really strong feeling otherwise, I would like for us to get our city attorney to work on this, and maybe we could present this for a first reading in January. Would you all be open to that? I mean, I could ask for a vote if you all would be open to that. Someone wants to make a motion to that effect, maybe that might be, ask Audrey if that's needed at this point, or we just propose it and bring it for a first reading and let that be the opportunity for a formal vote.
Mayor, I don't think we need to vote on it tonight since we don't have a formal proposal. I mean, the ordinance will be formatted slightly differently for the council for the first reading, so I don't think we have to vote on it tonight.
Well, then I would propose then that we'll put that on either the first or second meeting agenda in January to bring this up for a possible motion and a formal vote to make these changes. Okay, well, Mary, thank you again for joining us this evening and working through the technical stuff. Don't feel bad about that because we many of us have it, and we've been doing this almost the whole year now. So from time to time we have technical issues getting on it. So
I was definitely in a panic, but thank you very much. And I do want to say this, if anybody would like to, if you have questions or you'd like to talk to me about any of the research that I have done, or I'd be glad to talk to you personally. And I certainly appreciate your openness and your receptivity to this. You all have a great evening and nice Christmas.
thank you, Mary. Same to
Thank you,
you.
Mary.
I'm going to
Thank you,
sign
Mary.
off if I can figure out how.
All right.
Don't talk about me when I'm gone.
Merry Christmas.
Thank
We'll
you.
be-
Thank you, Mary.
Bye-bye.
Okay, I think then we're back to review of the minutes from our December 8th meeting and our December 15th meeting. If there is no corrections or additions, we'll approve those by unanimous consent. We updated them right prior to the meeting to get the right time for the start of the December 15th meeting corrected. That's been corrected. Okay, we don't have any financial report. I would remind you that we'll probably spend some time in January with our CFO, Aaron Bowles, kind of giving us a 6-month update on where we stand from a budget standpoint, actual compared to what we did forecast on our budget. So we'll probably work on that in the second meeting of the month after we get December closed out. All right, any other reports from staff or committees? All right, nothing there. Next item on the agenda is a application from Bardstown Bourbon Company related to the campus master sign plan application. If you all are familiar with that property out there, they've recently added a new building, which I think is their bottling operation. And this sign is just an application to formally request a sign for that building. And you have a recommendation, a letter, I think, from Hrb Jennings, who is our sign coordinator or administrator, along with being our preservation coordinator. And it, as you can see, it does meet the parameters that relate to how much of the size of the sign as it relates to the facade and so forth. And does anybody have any discussion on that or questions about it?
And Mayor, I just wanted to remind the council that on the campus master sign plans, they have broad discretion in approving these. You know, we've only had, I think maybe only Bardstown Bourbon Company's brought these to us. And so it is below the size that could normally be approved, but technically I think it could even be beyond that 5% and still be able to be approved since they have some discretion there. So they're within what Hrb could have approved on her own, even if it were, you know, brought to her as a normal sign application.
Okay, thank you, Audrey.
Mayor,
Go ahead,
Mayor, I have
David.
one other thing. I may need to abstain from this vote.
That's right. Since you actually worked on that project.
Yeah, I'm actually one of the contractors involved in that project, so.
Okay. Well, it should be a great sign. It's sure an expensive sign, so it's gotta be
It's gonna
pretty
be-
attractive.
It's
For
going to be
bottling.
spectacular.
It's probably the nicest sign on any bottling house I think I know of.
It is going to be spectacular. I've seen the renderings of it.
Okay. Thank you, David. If there's no other questions or comments for Audrey or myself, I would ask for a motion then to approve the application from Bardstown Bourbon Company for the sign on their bottling facility.
I'll make that motion, Mayor.
Have a motion by Councilman Hibbs. Is there a second?
I'll second, Mayor.
Second by Councilwoman Hart. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, then all in favor, say aye.
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 All opposed, like sign. And let the record show that Councilman Dones have recused. Thank you. Motion is carried. Next item, we've got a few more appointments for some of our boards and committees that are expiring in the month of January. And we have a new appointment, Jeff Crow, to be appointed for a 3-year term on the Tourist Commission effective January 1st, 2021. And we have Rick Caldwell on the Tree Board, a 3-year term of 1/14, or excuse me, starting 1/24/21. Rick is currently, this will be a reappointment for him, as well as Nick Kipper for a 3-year term, also effective January 24th of 21. Rick and Nick are both current members of that board. Jeff will be a new appointment. If I could, I'd ask for a motion then to approve these appointments.
So move, Mayor.
We have a motion by Councilman Williams. Is there a second?
Second, Mayor.
Motion by Councilman Dones, seconded. Any other discussion? Okay, all in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed, like sign? All right, thank you. Motion is carried. Okay, next item is city council member comments. I do know that Councilman Williams would like to, he has comments to make, and also Councilman Hibbs. So Coach Rowe, I'll give you the floor first.
Thank you, Mayor. First of all, I'm gonna try and be brief, be sincere, and be done. The mayor has expressed concerns regarding the pandemic and advised us to be safe. And all of you know about my personal experience of having contracted the virus due to no fault of my own, my wife and my daughter as well. But I wanted to share with you a couple other things. One, I just talked to my sister just the other day. She lives in Milwaukee, and she informed me that she is currently isolating because she is having COVID issues. She's doing well. But before our Zoom meeting 2 weeks ago, my brother-in-law passed away from COVID-19. He and his wife contracted COVID at the same time. His situation worsened and he had to go to the University of Kentucky Hospital. He resided in Lexington, where he was initially put on oxygen and eventually on a ventilator. And he passed away. My sister-in-law is doing fine, but my brother-in-law just retired last year. And a few weeks after his birthday, he passes away, and he leaves to mourn his wife and son and daughter-in-law, as well as 2 grandchildren. Okay, and then fourthly, I wanted to mention that I talked to my former assistant administrator at the KHSAA, and her son just recently passed away, not from COVID, but he was passing away. And while they were in the anticipatory grief process, they both contracted COVID-19 and had to watch their son's funeral virtually. So what I'm basically saying is we need to protect yourself, protect your family members, protect the people you love, the people you know, the people you don't know, protect the people in this community. Wear a mask and social distance. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Roland. We've all heard about a lot of people being impacted by this, but certainly your family, more than those that I know of, that in my circle of friends and relatives, it sounds to me have been impacted more significantly than any of the ones that I know. And it's a great message. Certainly sorry that your message is coming from firsthand personal experience, but it's still a message that we all need to hear. We know the vaccine is starting to get delivered in places here in Kentucky. We're hopeful that it's going to be started. People are going to start being vaccinated here in Nelson County, maybe by the end of the month. We were hearing from the governor's office that that's a possibility. So we're hopeful for that. And it's a great message for people to just not let their guard down. That's the bottom line. We're not out of this by any means. And the next family could be one of us impacted just like yours. And again, we want to express our condolences to the losses and just the pain and suffering physically and mentally it has brought to you and your family in other ways as a result. So thank you for sharing that with us tonight, Roland.
Thank you, Mayor.
Councilman Hibbs, I think you wanted to have a moment to share something with us, I think.
Yes, sir. Thank you. First off, Councilman Williams, my condolences for your loss, and everything that you said rings very true. Being one of the younger members of council and the newer members of council, in my first term coming to a close, I just wanted to tell you how much I appreciate the mayor, all of you council members, and all of the staff at the city, how much I appreciate your guidance and wisdom over the last 2 years. Everyone at the city, as well as each of you, have really made me feel like part of the Bardstown city family. And it has been my honor and pleasure serving with you over the last 2 years, and I'm very much looking forward to the next 2. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman Hibbs. Anyone else have anything to bring before us this evening?
Mayor.
Councilmember? Yes, Betty.
I would just like to say ditto to Councilman Hibbs' remarks. It's been a really good experience our first 2 years in our first term.
Thank you. Feelings mutual, I'm sure, with all of us. Anyone else?
Mayor, of course, I've probably been around longer than everyone here, but I'd just like to express my gratitude for this being, these last 2 years, probably been the most enjoyable 2 years I've had in my 20-some years involved in the city government. This particular council has been remarkably doing their homework, making themselves very knowledgeable of the issues that come up, that some are new and some are new issues to them, and the procedures that go along with them. And I want to thank you, along with all the other council people, for making this an enjoyable 2 years. This has been a good council, a diverse council, in knowledge and appearance, and it's really been enjoyable working with this particular council. I just want to let them know that I appreciate that.
Thank you. We certainly appreciate your service as well, Bill. Anyone else? All right. We're not finished yet, Bill, so that's not your longer. We're getting ready to go off. You got to put up with me for a few more minutes. If there's nothing else, then we'll move on to cemetery deeds. We've got Martha and Ronald Mitchell, purchase of 2 grave sites. Billy Avis, purchase of 2 grave sites. Angela Pointer, 1 grave site. Alicia Sani, 1 grave site. And Brian Sweeney, 1 grave site. We'll do those by unanimous consent. Thank you. Mayor, on the mayor's update, I mentioned earlier this evening, we were welcoming really a new council that will start their official term January 1st. And this has been such an extraordinary year. I felt like it was appropriate to acknowledge the work of this council and also the work of so many people here at City Hall. And so I typically like to do things more shoot from the hip and just have a few bullet points to refer to. But there's so much that has gone on in this last 2 years, and particularly this year as we dealt with COVID. I've got some prepared remarks that I'd like to share with you. So if you'll indulge me, I'd appreciate it. But it's my pleasure to welcome our next city council to office to conduct the work of the people in Bardstown for the next 2 years, beginning January 1, 2021. I want to congratulate each of you on your recent reelection for another 2-year term in office. And I've enjoyed working with you all the last 2 years, and certainly excited to be able to work with you again. I'd like to take some time tonight to reflect a bit on the accomplishments of this council and this administration over the last 2 years. It's been my experience in all the years I've been with city government that I don't think people realize the scope and the complexity of the work that the council and city staff must deal with and accomplish in providing all the services we provide here in Bardstown, and also many parts of Nelson County, because we provide services, particularly in utilities and internet and cable out into the county. In January, I want to outline some of the goals that the council members have and our administration and myself. We'll do that for the next 2 years. We'll do that during one of our January meetings. But I've compiled some information from feedback and reports that I've gotten from the city council members, and our staff as it relates to the last 2 years. And the information that I'll share tonight is by no means a full representation of all the work and accomplished over the last 2 years, but it does highlight many of the most significant results of our efforts. And with the leadership of this current council and our city staff, here are some of the major work that has been accomplished in the last 2 years. Of course, the biggest headliners this year is COVID-19. The city of Bardstown provides a number of essential services, so it was paramount that we responded in a way that resulted in the least disruption or impact on those services. As the pandemic evolved, our work has evolved here at City Hall. We immediately incorporated safety protocols to make sure that our services could be provided on a 24/7 basis, particularly those that we do provide on a 24/7 basis. Public safety was our #1 issue. Fortunately, no department had a significant outbreak of cases, and so we were adequately able to staff, particularly the critical departments, police, fire, electric, cable, our water and sewer plants, public works, and garbage collection. Internet service was never more critical with schools that were going to non-traditional instruction and so many people working from their homes throughout this time of this year. I mean, we're nearly 9 months into the pandemic. As a result of that, we added a lot of hotspots here in Bardstown and also throughout the county and established a lifeline tier that was very inexpensive, and that tier would help needy families who couldn't traditionally afford internet be able to afford an internet, particularly for their students who were home under NTI instruction. We never stopped responding to maintenance and repair issues on our infrastructure during this time. I mean, there was a brief time where during the shutdown, our technicians could not really go inside people's homes to do installs, particularly with cable and internet, or do repairs. A lot of that had to be done remotely for a time period. Sometimes we did it literally standing outside of people's home and talking to them from a distance in order to best correct their problem or get their install done. So was the level of service in all our departments perfect during this time? No, it definitely was not perfect. Was there interruptions? Yes, there was interruptions. But, you know, we dealt with this challenge of COVID like everyone else had to. You know, we were in uncharted territory, and I think our staff and our city council really stepped up. Risk management started, they sent out a bid for a request for a proposal for a risk and resilience assessment on that requires us to measure the risk and the resilience of our water system for malevolent, I can't pronounce that word, acts, natural hazards, monitoring practices, and the use of storage of our chemicals. Of course, the fire department made history when we opened our second firehouse, Fire Station 1 now. This will have a significant impact to reduce our response time. It also helped us reduce our ISO rating for insurance purposes from 6 to 3. That has resulted in many of our residents receiving discounts on their home insurance of anywhere from $100 to $300 a year. But the response times is the key there. And also we placed an order for a new fire engine. That's a very long period of time. We won't receive delivery of that fire engine until 2022, but that will be replacing a fire engine that we currently have in service that's 30 years old. The police department deployed the body cams this year. Body cams are from a company known as Intrinsic. This was a project that got started in discussion as soon as we hired Chief Kressig and Joe Seeley, Major Joe Seeley is one of our assistants. We began talking about that in 2017, and we're happy to say that it came to fruition this year. They also, we started in the last 2 years to create our first narcotics unit internally at Bardstown PD, and it became fully staffed and operational with 4 detectives this year. We also added a new canine dog this year and a canine officer. Our old canine had a lot of age on it, and his handler, Sergeant Colley, in his position of being sergeant, it just wasn't practical for him to also be our canine officer. So that changed. And as you heard recently, this narcotics unit has made a number of major busts here that took a lot of drugs off the street, a lot of money off the street that could be used to further their illegal work, and weapons. And of course, 4 individuals were also charged with manslaughter. And one of our cases that hasn't gotten a lot of publicity locally started through a overdose death here in town that has now been picked up and being handled by the United States Attorney's Office out of Louisville, and will be prosecuted with a federal indictment in Louisville for the death of that individual. Moving over to the finance department, our CFO, Aaron Bowles, this month is his first year anniversary. He started, I think, December 2nd last year. As you know, he came in under a very difficult time after the theft of a lot of money was discovered, and Aaron came in, stepped up to the task, and has really proven that what a excellent accountant that he is. You might recall that when the CARES Act money became available for cities, we were the first city to apply and get approval for the first round of our reimbursements. And that's a testament to Aaron's excellent work that he did, but also a testament to the record keeping that our department heads did for that. And I'll be talking about that here shortly, but the record keeping that they did, that we started, so we felt like we could get reimbursed for COVID related expenses, that was put together and submitted. And I'm very proud of the fact that Bardstown was the first city to receive approval for that reimbursement. And today, Aaron presented me with the final application for the first round of our COVID funds. It'll be, we sent that off today to be reimbursed for the last $69,000 of those reimbursements that are eligible. As you know, the council and the city of Bardstown, I think, immediately responded to the COVID, not just with safety efforts and so forth internally to protect our citizens and our employees, but to help our community, help our business community specifically. In our phase 1 relief, we distributed $121,000 in grants to the community. $65,000 of that was from the city. $56,750 of that was through our partners. We had a public-private effort on that. A lot of individuals and a lot of businesses really stepped up to help our business community, small businesses with these grants. We also donated in that first phase $20,000 to United Way so that they could distribute it among the eligible nonprofit agencies here in our community. Phase 2 came about. That is when we went together with fiscal court and our county government partners, and also some additional private donations. And it also was the result of some work. We had put together a task force to come up with some more input and feedback from them, business leaders here in the community, educators as well, of what was needed. And again, that second round of grants was $146,000 worth of grants that came from the city, did $72,000 of that. The county did $74,000 of that. And then we had $10,000 more in corporate donations to offset those costs. We also purchased 100,000 masks at that time. And they were very expensive. You couldn't find them. And through the efforts of our task force, we found a supplier that got us 100,000 masks. And to date, we've sold 73,000 of those masks at below our cost because of the subsidies that we received privately. Fiscal court contributed $35,000 of that money for the mask, and we got another $33,000 from corporate donations. So those first two rounds of relief was a wonderful example of how city and county governments can work together and work with the private sector to help situations like this. And I dare say that there's not many cities the size of Bardstown and counties the size of Nelson that have had such a dramatic effort, both with the public and private sector to help out in this case. And recently we approved $100,000 more from our CARES Act funds to create another grant program for the restaurants and bars and gyms that were affected by the most recent governor's executive order. And to date, just so you know, that started last Wednesday, and we have had 25 applications so far have come in, and we were anticipating somewhere between 20 and 30. So it looks like that will happen. And one thing that's it's not as large or probably doesn't get as much attention, but something I think we should definitely be proud of is our blessing boxes. That was the idea from Councilwoman Hart and Councilman Hibbs, and with the council's support. And Betty, I don't know if you or Councilman Hibbs have an update on, I know we got roughly $1,000 of that. The cost of those boxes were donated to us, and former Councilman Fred Hagan built them for us. But I know there's been a tremendous support from the community towards those boxes. Could you give us just a quick update on that? If I know I'm caught you off guard maybe, but you might be able to add something to that.
I think Councilman Hibbs has those numbers he's going to share.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, Betty. Thank you, Mayor. I think, not to speak for Betty and I together, but I think starting off, we just wanted to make a small impact, and I think it's really snowballed into something the community has really got behind. To date, we have over $3,000 worth of bags purchased from this Save a Lot bag program, which is absolutely fantastic. If I had to guess, we probably have that or a little bit more just from the community themselves going back and restocking these boxes and helping out. And it's really heartwarming to see the community really stand behind a project and try to help those in need.
Thank you, Frank. And just kind of wrap up the COVID stuff. There's been about $33,000 more in donations from the city to agencies that have been directly working to lessen the impact of COVID on our community. So we've really worked hard, and hopefully the new stimulus package that was passed yesterday and this latest round of phase 3, that our businesses will be strong enough to survive. And then we look forward to 2021 being a much better year locally for them. Our clerk's office, Gary Little and Lisa Burdette, our city clerk and assistant clerk, have done a number of things to redesign our forms and our operating procedures, which is going to be a much better, more efficient way to operate the clerk's office, and also and help improve our record keeping. So great work on that. And we've done, of course, a lot of work through our utilities. The electric department, one of the major things is, I probably might have to call on Councilman Knowles to elaborate, but the electric department, this has been something we've talked about for about 20 years, according to Eric Richter and Jeff Mills, that is our conversion from 4 kV to 12 kV voltage conversion. And from a layman's standpoint, we've been talking about this, but we finally put this in operation. We're doing that conversion in parts of our electric service area right now. And for me, when I understand it, it's a much more safer system, and it will make the cost of operating that system, from a maintenance long term, is going to be much cheaper, and that's very important. And I think it's a more reliable service, so we should be happy about that. David, I don't know if you could add anything to that shortly, but I'm not an electrician, so that 4 kV and 12 kV is a little hard for me to understand all that.
No, Mayor, you pretty much hit all the highlights on the head. I mean, it's going from 4 kilovolt to 12 kilovolt. Those maintenance issues definitely get less. Line losses are less. And the biggest thing I think is the amount of inventory that you have to stock. Before there had to be several different types of transformers. They can cut that number down and be more efficient as far as what type of inventory they have to stock, and then they're more readily available. The old 4 kV transformers would become less and less available and become more expensive, actually. So it's a big savings all the way across the board.
Okay, thank you, David. And then obviously on the other utilities, a lot of these got started. Some of them are going to carry over into our next year, particularly our Rowland Creek sewer improvement. That's almost $8.5 million project. A lot of that has been completed already, particularly the substation work and the increase in the line from our Town Creek plant going over to offload over to our Jerry Riley plant on Southern Lane. The actual line work is ongoing now on that project and will continue next year. As I stated earlier, we just completed our downtown water and sewer line update. Of course, involved also many hydrants. That was a $1.1 million project. And you can look for more of those. We'll probably identify another area of our downtown area that, those lines are nearing 100 years old. So it's time that they be replaced and updated. So we'll be picking more neighborhoods in the coming years to continue that. We painted and repaired 3 of our water tanks, Withrow Court, Nelson County Industrial Park, and one of our tanks is actually located in Hardin County. Did that. We started construction on our new public works building, 11,000 square foot building at Paget Drive. And obviously that's just getting started. We'll complete that project next year. And then our big sidewalk project from 62 on John Rowland all the way over to Chambers Boulevard. It's hard to believe, but that's nearly 3.5 miles of sidewalk that we completed this year. And happy to say that it's done now and looks great. And we're hoping that we'll be able to do more next year, starting on Chambers and tying that into Templin. So that would be a wonderful extension there, and we're hopeful to have that done. Of course, internet service was essential during the pandemic, but it's essential as a way of life. So high-speed internet is very important, for people who work from home, but also students. And we've been expanding our services, both here in the city and out in the county, and going to see more of that happening pretty soon. There's going to be, I think, a total of 3,000 city customers that are going to have speeds up to 1 gigabyte per second. So that's a wonderful improvement. But we have expanded out to this year. And last year we did Mount Moriah Road, Gordon Drive, Stevens Lane, Lily Pike, Yates Cooney Neck. That was some of those were done, also completed this year. And we're also working on currently out in the county, Bear Creek and the Potter Shop Road area, Wilkinson Road and the Chester Hahn and Dugan Lane and T Hahn. So more areas out in the county that we are currently working on, and we will have some, hopefully these will be completed in the next 6 months. Recreation Department, I know that a lot of people feel like we don't probably give them enough consideration, but we'll be talking more about that in January. But they just finished over $200,000 worth of work on the rec center here itself. They did over $60,000 worth of improvements at the Woodson Rogers Park this past year. And then over the last 2 years, thanks to a lot of volunteer work and a lot of our public works and recreation department employees, we've done some major improvements on our walking trails at the community park. And it's really, really a wonderful addition. They've been there, but they've been underutilized, and they're really a lot better now. So really providing another recreational opportunity on top of what we already have. And then, of course, we added probably the hottest thing in recreation is our SkyTrack zip line here at the Recreation Center here close to City Hall. That's been so well received by the young people here in the community. And I know Daniel and his team is planning to perhaps put another one up next year. And last but not least, Historic Review Board, the amount of work and stuff they're doing is triple today what it was 5 or 6 years ago. The number of cases they look at, or number of applications they look at. But they've also updated the sign ordinance. We increased the number of temporary sign allowances, and we created the campus master sign plan, which was a major addition to our sign ordinance. So that was really well received as well. So kind of including, I know I've taken a lot of time, but I just felt like that, people don't maybe necessarily understand the amount of work and the complexity of it, as I said earlier. And this goes to the council. There's a lot of work that they have to do in between meetings, and the committee work that they do. This is a very complicated business. We have 5 utilities plus the garbage that are revenue producing, operating first responders, the police department, the fire department, electrical, cable, internet, water, and sewer. So not any small task for all this to come together. And I just want to thank this council for the work you all have done this last 2 years. Thank our staff. We've got a wonderful staff here that has stepped up and operated under some really difficult conditions this year. And I'm really proud of what you all have done for this city, and you all should be proud as well. And so I think going into 2021, the future is bright for our government operations here at City Hall, but also for the city of Bardstown as a whole. And want to wish everyone, a happy and safe holiday season, and certainly a Merry Christmas. And I thank you again for everything you all have done for us. So that being said, I know I took quite a bit of time, but it was important to me to let the community know the level of service that this council and this city has provided over the last 2 years. And again, these were just the highlights. There's pages and pages of projects and processes and procedures that we've taken on in this last 2 years. And I'm excited about what's coming ahead of us, and look forward to working with each and every one of you.
Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. If there's nothing else, then I would thank you all. If there's nothing else, then I would ask for a motion for adjournment.
So move, Mayor.
A motion by Councilman Williams, or a second?
I'll second, Mayor.
All right, second by Councilwoman Hart. All in favor, say aye.